Good morning. I can't count the number of times over the past 28 years that someone has asked me, could you send us a sample results? What are the deliverables for your survey work? Of course, all of our work is confidential with individual schools, so that would be a breach of that confidentiality, and we've never been able to do it. That's all changed with last November's Community and Belonging Survey that Steve Pilch and John Gula and I conducted across 96 schools, 80 American, 16 Canadian. Last November, we had 22,297 students participating in a shorter survey than I would normally do, 42 questions, closed-ended, 3 open questions. Typically, we're looking at around 100 questions for student surveys, more for parents, and even more still for employees. In any event, that opportunity has given me the chance to share what we deliver. The full results, all the tabs, crosstabs, graphs, analysis, recommendations appear on this website on the screen that you see before you, right here under Community and Belonging Survey results. So if we click on that, we'll get to the results introduction, and all you have to do is follow the videos and the detailed results, both for the American schools and for the Canadian schools. So all of those results exist and are available for you. Full disclosure, this is what we do with every survey that we conduct for independent schools. So it's an excellent example and an opportunity in an anonymous way, because we don't name any of the participating schools, to get an understanding of what the deliverables look like. Now, to give you a very quick tour of what the folder looks like on my computer, I've presented it right here. Hopefully you can read the small type. To walk you through what we typically present for every survey that we do, be it parent, student, employee, or alum. Number one is my PowerPoint presentation that I deliver with the narrative. It's a recorded narrative for the Community and Belonging Survey because I didn't have the time to be presenting individually to 96 schools. It was a survey that John and Steve and I conducted free of charge as a legacy project, adding value to the conversation about community and belonging for students. So you can walk yourself through this presentation. It's on the website, just to give you some sense of what it looks like. Here we are. You can see each of the measures, demographics, all the way through to general satisfaction. Some of the interesting graphs that we shared would include this one, crossed by general satisfaction. Those who scored their overall satisfaction as a 1, a 2, or a 3, we call those the lesser satisfied, are on the left-hand side of this screen, numbering 5,887 students. 8,417 scored their overall satisfaction as a 4, and 3,257 as a 5. And you can see the breakdown by grades. Grade 9 students are happier than the other grades, as indicated by the green section in each of the bars down below. Other slides that you might find interesting in this series, there are 92 slides altogether, would be this one. If I am among the lesser satisfied of students, I consider myself lesser prepared for each of these skills. Fascinating to see that making choices that support my emotional well-being, handling stressful situations, conducting myself with confidence, these are typically strong points of distinction between lesser and greater satisfaction among students, as are the other measures here: organizing time, reflecting balance program, feeling capacity to handle the program and the daily demands, and so on. So that's important. Continuing to the next slide, We asked, do you identify as a member of the LGBTQ2S+ community? And we broke that apart by male, female, and other. And you can see that of those who said, yes, I identify with this community, 61.4% identify as female, and a much lesser proportion as male. And that's typical in our findings. So that gives you a sense of what we present, all the way through to recommendations at the end of the presentation. So you get the idea of what that presentation looks like. That PowerPoint presentation, along with my narrative that goes with it, is the easy on the eyes introduction to literally the thousands of pages that stand behind this presentation, hopefully giving those people who aren't proficient with statistics and aren't quantitatively oriented the comfort to read through my interpretive analysis of findings and to look at some of the other attachments. So there's the PowerPoint presentation number one. For the American schools, 80 of them, there's a full detailed interpretive analysis. There's another one for the 16 Canadian schools. That it's a PowerPoint presentation. I was an English major. I have an MBA, so I can crunch numbers, but it's interpreting those thousands of pages of data and graphs into plain English that gives me great joy, and hopefully gives people on the admin team the comfort, whether they're quantitatively oriented or not, with wading through my presentation. And you can see the table of contents. There's 82 pages in this report, a lot of numbers, but accompanied by my recommendations, highlights from the crosstabs, and so on. So that gives you a sense of what we're looking at there. A very short Excel file. This is a replication of the questionnaire itself. Here are the questions we asked, and here are the answers. How many for each of the grades? What are the percentages of the response group? How many completed the questionnaire? How many answered each question? There were no forced answers. We never had forced answers. Through to the general satisfaction, rated 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Percentage, scoring it as a 4 or a 5. And that's these numbers together. Attitudinal agreement, distribution from strongly disagree to strongly agree. The middle column, F here, is neither agree nor disagree. Weighted average on the 5-point scale, and a plus-minus ratio. Because we've got the neither agree nor disagree opportunity in the middle column, what I want to know is, how does the proportion of people who agree or strongly agree with this measure differ from those who disagree or strongly disagree? So we just take the sum of the 4s and the 5s and divide it by the sum of the 1s and the 2s. And we can say those who agree with this statement, I'm enthusiastically involved in out-of-classroom activities, outnumber those who disagree by a ratio of 7.3 to 1. So that follows through the attitudinal agreement series, the how well prepared do you feel series, another 15 measures. We asked, have you been personally affected by experiences of discrimination? And if so, on what basis? And that was the end of the questionnaire. Rather short, very pointed on a topic. So there's the TRG report. Crosstabs. Having that TRG report, I want to know, how do all the subgroupings distinguish when we look at them? As you can see by the contents page, we've prepared subgroupings in the number of 114. So you can look at this in isolation on any number of ways. For example, you can look just at the grade 9 students, click on it, hyperlink takes you to that tab. 4,245 students in grade 9 participated in the survey. As you can see, there's nobody here in grades 10, 11, or 12. And this looks just like the TRG report, but just for those in grade 9 all the way through. You can look at it for grade 9, for grade 10, for grade 11, for grade 12. Typically, we survey from grades 5 and up, but this was a high school survey only. But you'll go blind looking at each of those in isolation. So we've prepared comparative crosstabs, both for the Canadian and the American schools. This is for the American schools. And we've got 42 different breakouts, which are a collapsing of the crosstab reports. So, for instance, looking at grade of enrollment, these are the weighted average scores for the grade 9 students, the grade 10, the grade 11, and the grade 12. This is the file on which we prepared a full set of graphs so you can look at it visually rather than going blind again, looking at all these numbers. But this is essentially a source document, and we provide those for every survey that we do. A very fascinating report that we generate. It's called correlation coefficients. Don't look to the right. You'll get scared if you do. It's a correlation coefficient matrix. There's, I think, 465 correlation coefficients over there. We've correlated every 5-point measure in the survey with every other 5-point measure in the survey. I want to know at a glance, if someone said, here's my general satisfaction, or I'm passionate about the study of at least one subject, what else did they say in rank order? Rather than looking at every measure in the survey, let's look at the ones that are most correlated. So, for example, if we look at number 10, I feel respected and valued at school, takes us to another tab. You can see that the weighted average agreement with this measure is 3.8 on the 5-point scale. To the right, you see the ranked correlation coefficients with every other measure in the survey. And as you can see, there are 30 other measures. The p-values, for those of you who care, this is a statistical significance measure. The bottom line is, if it's less than 0.01, you would say it's statistically significant as a figure. Now, you don't even see any numbers here on the right side of 0. Some of these go 250 decimal places before you see another number. In other words, these are statistically significant findings. What we've done here is put them in rank order. You can see the correlation coefficient for the first measure. I feel that I gain meaningful positive value from being a member of the school community at 0.70406. 1 is the highest, 0 is the lowest. So there you have them in rank order. And just for ease of review, I've highlighted everything in blue that's 0.5 or more. That's an arbitrary choice. So that's something you can look at for every measure in the survey, so that when you're having a conversation with your colleagues about, well, what does it mean to feel respected and valued? What it means is I gain meaningful value from being a member of the community. Importantly, I feel emotionally safe. I feel a strong sense of belonging. I'm treated as an individual. I'm encouraged to express my opinion, and so on. So it helps you at a glance frame a conversation and inform a conversation based on what the highest ranked correlation coefficients are. So that's a highly valuable report. Specifically within that, we can provide PowerPoint presentations for each of these measures. The one I just shared with you, I feel respected and valued. There were 31 measures in the survey. As I've shared, 465 associations, correlations. And for this particular measure, how does that connect? We've seen the top 10 ranked correlations on this one. Here they are again. Now, what I want to know is, when we flip this chart upside down, where does agreement with the statement, I feel respected and valued at the school, rank for all these other measures? And we can see them here, noting that there are 30 in the list. When we look at the correlation coefficients, top correlation coefficients to the statement, in general terms, how would you rate your satisfaction with the school? I feel respected and valued, scores 4th in the ranking, and there are 26 more below it. Continuing, I feel a strong sense of belonging at the school. I feel respected and valued is number 1. And there are 29 others ranked below. Continuing. Sorry, I feel emotionally safe while at the school. Number 1. I feel encouraged to express my opinion. Number 1. I gain meaningful, positive value from being a member of the school community. Number 1. And so on. You get the idea of what that does. Really helpful in understanding what are the most meaningful measures in correlation with everything else. How much does that pebble in the pond reach out in ripples to the edges? We have a best scores report as well. Compared to what are the 3 most important words in reviewing any survey results? You can look at a result and say, well, that's a terrible result. And my answer is compared to what? You need to know the context of what you're comparing. So for all of the American schools in this pool, we're looking at average scores, low scores, high scores, median, and what's the standard deviation? In other words, how does that distribution vary about the mean? So for instance, when we look at general satisfaction, average overall satisfaction, we saw this earlier, 3.7. The low is 3.2, high is 4.5. Median is also 3.7. Often median matches average, not always. Standard deviation of 0.25. That essentially means that approximately 2/3 of ratings across the schools are within 0.25 of 3.7. So the average is 3.7 plus or minus a standard deviation of 0.25. So 2/3 of respondents range between 3.45 and 3.95. Tells you about how tightly grouped they are. And that same presentation exists for each of the measures in the survey. So you're able to look at it and say, okay, are we more than a standard deviation above average or below average, or are we in the pack among surveyed schools? So context is very important. Graphs. We've graphed anything under the sun here. You can see the number of graphs sets is huge. And we're looking at approximately 54 graphs for every subsection that we've explored. For instance, let's look at time spent on homework. You can see 54 graphs, and we can wade through these to our heart's content. You can see those who spend more than 3 hours on homework every day report lesser overall satisfaction. There's a happy middle in this. The saddle effect displays itself often in this set of graphs. That's a lot of graphs for you to wade through. So we've also gone through each of these graph sets and parsed them with our finger hovering over the delete button and provided a select set of graphs. So 31, it's still a meaningful number, but these are the graphs from that particular set that you should be looking at to see what happens with varied time spent on homework. Interesting saddle effect here that you see. I feel capable of handling the day-to-day academic workload. If I spend more than 3 hours a day on homework, guess what? I don't feel as capable. Emotional safety drops with time spent on homework. There is a happy middle here. That concludes my tour of the deliverables. I hope that's of value for you. If you need more information about what we do and how we do it, give me a shout. My contact information is on the website. Have a great day.